Hello, this is Fat Boy from Beats.pal, and today we're going to turn those basic drum samples that's to come with FL Studio into something that's a little more usable. Now, I'm not bashing these samples because these samples are nice, clear, professional samples, even though they sound kind of plain if you listen. Without processing, they sound plain, but they're clear. They sound like they were recorded in a nice high quality area. So let's get right into this. So as you can see, we already dropped them down into our mixer. Everyone has their own mixer insert, and they're all routed over to the drum mix, which is our drum bus. So everything is over to the drum bus. Nothing goes straight to the master. The only thing goes to the master is this drum mix or drum bus. Let's change this to drum bus. Just the name that I think most people are used to using. So we're going to take this signal from the drum bus to the master. That's the only thing going to the master. You want to lower this down minus 2 dB. And we can actually put a soft clipper on that also. The Fruity limiter is basically, sets a hard limit at minus 2B. So you can just put that on minus 2B. And throw your threshold up there like that. And again, that's all we have so far. Now we're going to use a technique called parallel compression to help bring out the sounds of these samples. And we're going to actually add a little reverb also, maybe even a little delay, I don't know. But let's just add a little compression first. And this process called parallel compression is straightforward. It's pretty simple, even though it's an advanced mixing technique. Now let's do that right now. So we're going to go to an empty mixer insert, and we're going to use this for our parallel compression. So let's call this, say, PP for that. Oh, what's going on there? There we go. Now let's route the signal over to this channel, and you do that again by right-clicking on this and sidechain to this track. All right, now right at this point we're only it's kind of confusing in some ways. FL Studio, when you sidechain, you're only sending the signal and not necessarily the audio. So I'm gonna show you what I mean by that in a second. Let's make a drum pattern so I can show you what I'm talking about. So let's just put a drum pattern in here. Any drum pattern will do for this. Kick, some hi-hats, and a snare. So we have this little drum pattern. Pretty simple. You might want to level, it depends on how you want to mix this. Say if we had it like this. Say we pan that there, pan that. Have to clap maybe way over to the right. Just basically whatever you say. If you're making a song, whatever you mix that any way you want. I'm just trying to show you an example. Okay, so now we have this drum bus, and we're going to route this drum signal over to our parallel processing bus. And this is where the name of parallel processing come from. We're going to mix in parallel. We're going to mix side by side. Everything that we do on this track will be independent of the first track. Okay, so we're going to mix again in parallel. So now you see we have a duplicate signal, duplicate sound. But we want to add effects to this we want to add effects to this track number 6, this parallel processing track. So one of the most common things you see when people do this is something called New York compression, especially if you're dealing with hip hop. So to add some New York compression or parallel compression, we need a compressor. So the Fruity limiter has a compressor built in. So let's go ahead and hit play, and we're going to really smash this signal. I'm going to go all the way down, right up to these low transients down the bottom here. And then we're going to compress this to about, say, 5 to 1, somewhere around there. That's 5.1 to 1. And what this is doing is just, as you can see, this purple part is just smashing all those high transients all the way down to the threshold. And of course, you're going to use a little makeup gain for the sound that we lost, the volume that we lost. And at this point, you should hear that thumping at the bottom. That's the part. That's the part that's coming from this parallel processing bus. But we can't hear that. If I turn off the drum bus is sending that signal to this channel. But if I turn this off, we can't hear it. So what we have to do, we have to use what's called the fruity send. And you usually want to do this on the lower end of your mixer chain, of your effects chain. So just give yourself a fruity send. Right click on the box here and go to PP. And this will send the audio and not just the signal to this track. So if I turn the drum bus off now and hit play, we'll still hear audio. We'll hear sound. And we're only hearing that process sound. You hear how smashed that is. But we got that nice thump. And then you can blend them back together. And you can, you would have a whole song at this point, and you would be mixing it in, blending it in, trying to get it to the right levels for your mix. Maybe you want it a little more dry, and actually I like it like this. Now remember, because we are duplicating this channel, you will get an extra sense of volume from this parallel. Let's turn this off again. This does have volume, even though I'm only looking for that bottom end, that thump and that's the only part I'm looking for from this channel. It is actually duplicating some of the volume, so it is going to be a little louder. That's something you always want to remember. But it's already, let's turn this off completely. Oops. Let's turn this off. This is our original sound. This is the FL Studio basic sound of these samples. Adding this process enhance those sounds tremendously. Those sounds right now you can use. What I like to do now is add some reverb. And where's the fruity reverb? No, it's actually, I'll use this reverb right here. I have a preset that I made that I like. It's a little wet. Now we're going to hear the reverb on top of the compression. Now we can blend it in some. I like to add that reverb like that because I was basically focusing on the hi-hats, and while the compression from the limiter here is focusing on the low end. So now I have the high and the lows both enhanced, and that should make those drums stand out more. Let's listen to it one time. Now at this point, you're actually done. I mean, it's very, very simple, but very, very powerful, and you should be able to duplicate this in any manner that you want. I use compression and reverb, but maybe you want to use delay and EQ, or just EQ, or whatever. You can always split this channel over to a parallel channel and process this channel independently from the original, and that will give you so much control over your mix going forward. Now this is something, like I said, I use this probably on every drum beat that I use. I'm always using some type of parallel processing on every single drum beat. It might not, most likely it's not going to be just this compression and this reverb, but there's always some form of compression. I'm always some form of parallel processing in every beat that I make, because, like, again, it gives you so much control of what you're doing. Alright, now if you have any comments or questions about what I just showed you, drop a comment in the box below. If you learned anything, share the video. You know, I can make videos on all types of topics in FL Studio, but only, if only if people are watching them. I mean, I'm not really usually a video maker for demonstration purposes, but I have some knowledge about FL Studio that I can share with you. Definitely have a lot of music theory and music production knowledge that I can share also. Okay, I'm Fat Boy from Beat Stockpile. I hope this video will help you out. Y'all have a nice day.